Oh my goodness, we are here. We have made it. It's 5:30-ish. Welcome in, everybody. It's episode 47, Prep Talk Live. I'm Casey with Cascadia Dispatch, and joining me in this special appearance is that Rip. I thought I was expecting the Urban Prepper, but it appears Rip is here.
I took Urban Prepper to the train station. He's done.
Tup is over. Rip is here.
He had a good run, but again, took him to the train station, so he's done.
He's over. He's over. Now, Rip, are you wearing the vest too, or just the hat? I can't tell because I saw your plans for Valentine's Day. We talked about this last week, and we. So I just gotta see. Are you wearing the vest too, or did you just pull in the hat and the glasses?
Well, I got my Rip gloves. I have my Rip jacket. So Valentine's was a big hit this year.
A big hit?
Normally I mess up. Oh my gosh, we got Sutton's Days too. So
oh my God, she showed up for this.
She heard Rip was coming. She heard that Rip was coming. The top was bumped off.
She's not even saying words. She's just throwing out like there's letters in there. I don't know what's happening. I think you may have broken Sutton's Days.
Yeah, I think finally.
For every time
she's like a wild stallion that has to be broken. Yeah. No, for
the Candelorian has been tamed. I feel like
finally
a whole nother episode.
Oh, well, my wife is a big fan of Yellowstone and especially Rip, and she wishes I was more like Rip. And so I had this idea. Well, maybe for Valentine's I could be Rip for a day. So it's a kind of a role playing type thing. So anyway, so she was having a real bad day because she had a rough night the night before for some weird.
Because people were poking around the ranch, and
they're poking around the ranch. It wasn't their cattle.
No, exactly.
Brand. Anyway, so she was having a rough day. She was talking to her brother, so I'm like, okay, I was gonna wait for tonight, but I'm gonna do it today, right now. So in the morning, so I got the Rip costume on and the gloves and everything, and I just walked downstairs, and she was busted. And I had my Valentine's Day present wrapped up in pink wrapping paper, and she was just rolling and taking photos and stuff. And then the present that I got was a 8x10 photo of Rip in a frame. So,
and now it's prominently on the mantle. The kids' class photos are right next to it, and then there's Rip right in the middle.
Well, we have this family mural on the wall that has all these like historic people from the family, and she's putting Rip in the family mural with like her real family members. So
Sutton's Days again just wins. She just walks in. We're like, hey, we're gonna bring Rip to the party and everything else, and we think we got her. Yep, ride 'em, cowboy. Yeah. Yeehaw.
The only problem is Rip is not these aren't prescription Rip glasses, so looking at the chat's gonna be a little rough today. So. But again, I took
your way with the leather gloves.
Yeah, I took Top to the train station again, so you don't have to worry about him anymore.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
That's done.
Okay, good. You know what? I feel like this is a better partnership anyway. I feel more secure.
I think so too.
Yeah, some of the other podcasts we're getting a little, but I think this is a better plan for us in general.
Yeah, I think so too.
Oh my goodness. All right. So let's just rewind for a second here. And lots of people are here. Big Fly is here. Chuck's here.
There we go.
Sutton's Days, the queen is in the chat. She is here. She's entered the building. Amy is here. So we have the regulars have made it. They put it on their calendar. They were like, what is this Yellowstone podcast? And will Rip really show up? And yes, Rip is here.
Rip is here.
Tup is not. So I was gonna say, how was your week? But it feels like probably pretty good.
She's like, this is the first year that you didn't mess up Valentine's Day. Or this is basically. I don't know if she said that exactly, but it was one of the better Valentines for her. So And so then after I had to still work because I have to make the bread, but
well, of course, yeah. The
but then
cows didn't need to be rustled.
I was ripped the whole day. So I did school pickup at the school, and my son was totally embarrassed and mortified that I showed up as Rip to school pickup, and my
Wow.
daughter was scared because she thought I looked evil, and
I'm not sure if that, like, I feel like that should have contributed to our viewership going up this week,
yeah.
because I'm sure you made a lot of Valentine's Days, Ben.
Well,
People.
I yeah,
Uh,
during school pickup, I got all these photos with all these like, middle-aged moms. They all wanted photos with Rip, so I was kind of a celebrity for the school.
As opposed to like when you're in Costco and you're a celebrity for being
Yeah.
Tup, now you're
Now
Rip. Everywhere you
Tup-
go.
Tup's
there's
kind of
just
old
people.
news. Tup's so 2013. It's
Exactly. Ladies and gentlemen, he plays like he doesn't care about the attention, but let's be very clear. He spends a lot of time at Costco and a lot of time dressed up like a cowboy at pickup. So I'm just saying, it is what it is. We read into it what we have.
yeah.
The next side hustle.
But then I then
Mhm.
for dinner, instead of going out to a fancy restaurant, well, first off, she didn't want to go to a fancy restaurant with me dressed as Rip, but I did a nice steak dinner, total cowboy style, and
Nice.
did it on the cast iron supplies and everything. So it was a total cast iron steakout.
Oh my
with
goodness.
filet mignons that were purchased at Costco.
Of course.
But
The
yeah,
best ones
so
are.
we had a cowboy dinner, and I wore the Rip costume the entire day, and she prefers me as Rip than as myself.
You took it off you. She woke up this morning and she was like, no,
Yeah,
put the hat back on.
Yeah.
Put the glasses and the hat back on, and we'll continue with our world.
Yeah.
I have so many follow-up questions that are not appropriate at all. So we're just gonna continue on. Looks like did you change for the Rip pics? I don't know if you subscribed to Tup's Instagram, anybody, but if you do, there were many Rip was in full effect across social media for Tup. He took over. Not only did he take him to the train station, but he took his phone when he put him on the train. He took it and he
took it. Well, you got to
took
dispose of
over all
evidence.
the accounts.
Took over the accounts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tup's done. He's
exactly.
You won't be seeing him anymore.
Yeah. That's the real secret behind why the Doom Zoom doesn't happen anymore. They've just Tup was gone.
Yeah. Well,
They've shipped him off and it's all done. Sutton's Days, thanks for stopping by. I feel like you picked a great night to pop in and a great night to pop out. So thanks for stopping.
Sutton's Days is the Beth Dutton to Rip. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Beth is like, now I have to go take care of Mrs. Urban Prepper because she's apparently infatuated with her man. So seems wonder if Tups if Rip will be making any additional appearances for Tups.
She has a birthday coming up.
Based on how excited Tup is about this, I feel like this might be a once a week thing. This might pick up real fast.
Yeah.
We may never see Tup again. The Kangol hat may be gone.
That was what my original branding. You're going to see new branding on the sites.
Exactly.
And
it's a whole brand refresh.
And anyone that subscribes now has to get a real brand on them. That's a cattle brand. That's part of a subscription. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like that's part of the Patreon experience. Is he'll send you the brand, you send him a picture back, and that's the thing. Oh my goodness. All right. So we were planning on, I think last week. So for everybody who wasn't here last week, we started talking about Valentine's Day. We started talking about prepping with your Valentine and that sort of thing. And we very quickly got into Tup's Yellowstone role play situation. And talking about Yellowstone. So this week, what we want to talk about is with the Yellowstone stuff, what are some of the EDC elements, the prepping elements and things that are in the Yellowstone show that might be of interest or use or discussion and that sort of thing.
Now, have you watched are you all cut up, or did you do a binge
Okay,
watch?
So I watched some pieces. I watched some pieces. I have not watched the whole thing, but I watched some pieces, and so I got some ideas. But I figured Rip knows his way around the ranch the best, so I'll let you lead it off.
Yeah. So
with some
I've been analyzing it. We just finished 1883, which is like there's the prequel to the prequel. It's like the origin story for it, basically. It sounds
like Star Wars.
It's like episode 1 of Star Wars 2, and then Yellowstone is like A New Hope type thing. So
Okay. All right.
so it's kind of the origin story. Yeah, and it's kind of like an Oregon Trail thing. And I was I'm, the prepper nerd in me is, as we're watching this, I'm taking notes for like the supplies that they had for the Oregon. It's a
For
fictional
fording the river,
like
or
it's a real documentary. It's like it's like
just make sure you have a few people named Donner in your party.
Yeah,
and you'll
yeah.
be.
Well, I mean, well, first off, everyone had they had protection as far as that was mandatory in those days. But
Yeah.
that's kind of a given. I think all the prepper people are kind of like that. So, the fixed blade knife for sure. In the wagons, I was interested in what they were using for cooking and stuff. And this isn't EDC, but for just general bug out supplies, all the cast iron cooking supplies, the kettles, cast iron kettles, the TP that you could hang it over the fire with that. The coffee pots. Coffee was still super important in there. And then I was also looking at the food supply that they had. So the biscuits that they were making and the different soups that they made, which was cool. So I took some ideas on that. Also, the shovels were big because they had to bury bodies basically. So. Yeah, I do the same thing when
I mean, obviously, I would imagine you have at least 3 shovels in your office right now.
Yeah. Well, you might not be too far off. Yeah. So the shovels were big because there was one scene where someone was having to bury a body, and he had a metal plate that he was using, like a cooking plate, like a eatware. A Tupperware.
Oh, okay.
And so was digging with that, but they ended up getting the shovel for that. What were some of the other things? First aid supplies were important too, like the clean rags and the gauze and everything like that. That was
no AEDs back then or anything like that. It was much more I think one of the things that I think is important to remember is it's very easy nowadays for us to think about just the quick what seems even technical in like a Band-Aid, whereas like a Band-Aid is really gauze with tape that then they like made easy by putting it as a Band-Aid and then you can apply it. But having some of those elements that you could use to manufacture your own supplies, I think was a takeaway for me in that whole thing. That, a lot of times we have a lot of food that is, could be freeze dried or prepackaged or whatever, but like making sure you have flour and sugar and clean water, and butter or whatever, oil, something that you can cook with, that you can make things with, having some of those shelf stable ingredients as well as some of those raw materials, just wood and rags and cloth and rope and some of those sorts of things that aren't always the coolest, when we think about like some of the gadgets and gizmos that we have. They're not the coolest, but you need to have those, because if your gadgets run out and everything else runs out, you got to fall back to some of those older plans.
Yeah, and I think we all call our emergency food storage is what we call it, or our preps or whatever. But for them, it was rations. So they call it what they had to stock up on their rations, and they seem to have the flour, water, salt, sugar that was used, and then they also had different vegetables in there. So they had potatoes and onions. I was seeing that, and so even during the Oregon Trail, they had a supply of those, which they were able to keep. It lasts for multiple months. So I thought that was interesting. A lot of jerky that they when they had to process an animal, they made the jerky with it. What are some other things? Rope, rope was super key. Lanterns, lights. Anyway, as a prepper is fascinating.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and even things like fire starting materials, and I think also thinking about on the wagons, they were restricted with what they could actually carry. So, they had to have supplies, they had to be able to restock, but they could only hold so many things. So you can't have 9 different fuel sources. Like, you have to have either what you can make fire out of, or have some amount of fuel to, lanterns and that sort of thing.
There was a scene where they had to cross a river, and a lot of them had a bunch of superficial stuff that they didn't need, like a harpsichord and furniture and stuff like
Satellite phone.
So the lead person told them, "Hey, you got to dump all that stuff because we need to make the wagons light." And so it made me think of my bug out bag. Like, hey, I wonder what stuff I need to dump from here, like, because it's frivolous type stuff, or it's not key to survival type thing. So I thought it was a good lesson there too.
I think it's interesting too, in that when you're thinking about it like that, of what they were dumping stuff out. There's a lot of stuff we put in our bug out bags that may be kind of extra.
Yeah.
Most of the things I have are extra, but like, okay, they could be extra things. It's almost like with the module system, you almost need to put the thing, like, what is the first layer of stuff you would get rid of if you needed to? You put all of that stuff in a module. So if you needed to, it's easy to just pull that one thing out, as opposed to rummaging and undoing your entire bug out bag or your entire get home bag. It's like, what are those things that you have extras of or duplicates of, maybe even, that you could get rid of in a hurry?
Yeah, and I think in mine, like my tools module is probably there might be some scenarios where it's just too heavy, even if it's like 5 pounds. So
yeah,
but you could just, if you wanted to, you could just dump it, and it's in that kit. So
and things where it's like, you've got the tool module, but okay, if it was in a pinch, could you survive with a multi-tool? Like, obviously you would like the heft and the weight of some of those tools, the leverage that some of those tools can give you. But in reality, like, if you couldn't do it, okay, you lose that, and you've got a multi-tool, and it's got 80% of what you would necessarily need to do things with.
Yeah, there was one scene where they were talking, and one of the main characters was off hunting or something like that at the time, and they needed to get him back. And so the guy, Sam Elliott's character, was like, "Hey, I could call him," and I'm like, "What do you think he's going to call him for?" It's 1883, so, like, he doesn't have a cell phone.
They have 5G back then.
It's fine. So anyway, so they had he shot his firearm and a certain number of rounds, and that was like his signal, and it meant something to the other character that knew that's how I guess it was more of like a pager type thing, but they recognized the sequence of that. So I don't know. I was kind of thinking a little bit about like signaling module, like comms and stuff. If you didn't have a radio or anything, like what you could use for that. So
yeah, which is I think it's interesting. If you didn't have a radio, then what, whistles, and because whistles are loud and lightweight and abundant. You can put multiples in a bag. It's not going to be a big deal. The mirror signal, I think that's always been one that has been interesting to me, because it feels like everyone's like, you should do it, and I'm like, but it feels like that people would be needing to look for you to find it.
Yeah,
like, you need to know where to look in order to see it and have it get your attention and everything else. If you just start signaling to somebody with a mirror and they've turned their back or they're not paying attention, they're not necessarily going to see it right away.
I think if you're like on a deserted island, maybe or out in the water, I don't know. I think there's other modern things that you could probably get that are, even a laser pointer would probably be pretty good. But
and well, I mean, if we're talking about modern things, then okay, you could laser pointers and flares, and you can get all kinds of fun stuff. But
there's another scene in it, like one of the last episodes, where they had to amputate a leg, and they had a kit for that, like in their wagon. Like, so they had like the certain knife and the dressings and stuff, and then the tourniquet that they made, and then they had a bone saw, and I was like, oh man, I don't have a bones. I guess I have my silky saw, but I don't have a bone saw. Like,
so hopefully, so there's a question. Never have to do that. There was a question in the chat.
Yeah.
Which Prairie Prepping is here. Yes, very glad that you're here. Also, you'll notice that Tup is not available today. Rip is in his place.
Done.
Yeah, Rip is here. So do you need both an axe and a silky saw?
Me personally, I go silky saw. It's lighter. It's less energy, I think, than it's. I guess it depends on if you're a urban prepper or a rural prepper. If you're a rural one, you could probably warrant an axe. But I think there's other things that you could carry instead for that weight. But the saws they're so lightweight. They're pretty efficient. So that's my preference. But
now, is a silky saw, maybe I missed this, but is a silky saw the kind that's like it's like a string, and you grab both ends and you
no, that's
do this?
No, I wouldn't want one. That's when I first started prepping. That's what I got, one of those chainsaw type ones where you and they all suck. I've tried all of them. It's like it's like a chainsaw style with little loops on it. No, like the silky saw is there's a couple different types, but I think like the fold out one, I think Canadian Prepper has some cool videos on it. They're pretty long, and so you're doing it kind of like that, and it's a super efficient saw, and they have different sizes for it. And there's other ones that you could you kind of assemble, and it makes kind of like a hacksaw type shape, and those ones are also good.
Got it. Okay, so it's
that's
more
what I
of
have
a flip out sort of a style as opposed to the garbage.
Yeah, don't do those ones.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't.
I mean, you can, but I've tried them. And
you can. You'll be judged. You'll be judged and shamed. And if in an emergency situation you come across Tup or Rip,
if you bring out the chainsaw, I'm going to take you to the train station.
Exactly. You will. There's no frozen, freeze-dried food for you. No canned pepper jelly for anyone with one of those chainsaws.
Yeah, the Baco that's from Jonathan. Yeah, that one's a good one too. I have those in most of my kits. For sure. I guess the hatchet is just like, it depends on the weight of it. I kind of like the instead of a hatchet or like a axe, I prefer like the demolition bars for urban settings that might have a kind of axe type blade, but it's more for escape and demolitions. Like if you had to break into a car door or something like that. That's what I have personally. I probably have one laying around, but
yeah, I think there's also an interesting thing too in the defensive piece. When you start talking about like axes and machetes and saws and things, any sort of a big, large cutting implement, because I had a hatchet that I put in my tool bag that I was using in case there was like a downed tree branches or something like that in some of the roads around our house. You can get a tree branch that would come down, but I switched out and also put a fairly lengthy machete in to, if I'm going through a forest or trying to clear brush or whatever. But there is also a certain amount of, when we talk about gray man, yellow jacket scenario, if you're wandering around with a gigantic machete or an axe or something like that, there is a more visceral response from people, I think, to leave you alone than if you're walking around with a silky saw and no one has any idea what it is.
That's true. Yeah. Things to consider.
So that might be, especially if I know that there are people who, when they think about defensive options, are not necessarily maybe not looking at the ones that are in Yellowstone. They're maybe not looking to have that sort of an option. So that would be kind of another defensive option that you could have.
Yeah. Again, I have the folding saw for mine, which I guess
exactly.
If I needed to amputate some Casey's leg, we could go that route. I wouldn't want to do that. I wouldn't want to do the hatchet for that. That would be
not taking a machete to the leg.
Yeah, I also they also had booze, like the alcohol was needed because like before they did the amputation, they made him drink a half bottle of whiskey basically and to pass out, and then they did the procedure. So maybe that's something. But
well, I think
there's weight on that. So.
Yeah, that's I think a whole nother thing too of like if you're talking about surgical sort of a situation versus, when we talk about tools that do multiple things, okay, a saw can be for gathering wood or clearing brush or breaking out, in a building or something like that. But it could also be for some sort of a medical procedure if you needed a crude medical procedure.
The only one that I know has a dedicated bone saw in their bug out bag is the Mountain RN.
The Mountain RN.
Yeah, he's like, oh yeah, this is my bone saw for my medical kit. I'm like, geez, man.
And you don't have one?
No, well, not like.
I feel like that's a miss. I feel like that's an Amazon thing that
he has a legit bone saw in his first aid kit.
Yeah, I feel like too. That's another one of like, okay, how awful does the situation have to get where you're amputating something with a hacksaw sort of a thing? Like that's old school. That's a whole different thing.
But I thought I liked a lot of the things that I have in my kit that were also again, we're not talking the modern day Yellowstone because that's a whole different set of EDC supplies, but I'm kind of talking about like the 1883 part of it because I thought that was the most prepper like in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. That's where I think a lot of the kind of old school things our grandparents and great-grandparents and great-grandparents did. Those are the sorts of skills I think that oftentimes get lost, in our more modern worlds.
Yeah.
And if there becomes a time where the modern conveniences aren't available, having those skills would be helpful. And I am the first to admit that I do not have lots of those skills. So I need to pick up my skill game on that front.
There's a good book called Durable Trades. I did a live stream interview with him, the author, about a year and a half ago. But that one has a list of like durable trades that have lasted the test of time and that are still provide value even during like downward economic times and stuff. So I thought that's a really good one that's written by a fellow prepper. So
oh, that's fantastic. Speaking of live streams, I know that there is going to be a live stream tomorrow.
Yeah.
Which is very convenient since Rip has disappeared.
Yeah.
Tup.
Yeah,
it's very appropriate then that tomorrow's live stream on your channel is.
It might be Rip.
I think it should be Rip.
Yeah, I think
it should be Rip, giving us an update on where Tup is gone.
Well, yeah, I figured I get a lot of messages from people like, "Hey, when's the next video?" So I figured might as well just address the whole audience on that one on the main channel. Yeah. But yeah, I'm feeling the creative juices come back and for sure. So that'll be fun. That's gonna be fun. So hopefully people tune in on that. But we'll see if Tup shows up. We'll see if he shows up.
Exactly. And in the meantime, if you'd like to see Tup, come here because we have him here every week.
I'm gonna say, hey, we've been talking every week. So
exactly.
haven't been far away. So
we chat every week. Get the podcast, get the whatever. We're here all the time.
Yeah, we're on TikTok. We're all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Which, by the way, speaking of TikTok, all right.
Yeah.
I'm glad. Thank you for bringing this up. I'm glad that you
try to bring it up once. Episode.
Wrangler Star. Holy viral moment. Did you see Wrangler Star's TikTok? First off, did you know that Wrangler Star had a TikTok?
I did. I had no idea. He's one person I would think would not be on TikTok.
Also, Canadian Prepper would not expect him to have a TikTok. Both of them have TikToks now.
Yeah.
And they have been all over. Wrangler Star had himself a viral moment last week.
What happened?
He was doing a video. His whole kind of, I don't know if it's his whole channel now or if it's just his TikToks, are about being a professional homeowner, which I feel like there's a story there. Like he's got a point of view on that. I don't know what it is, other than it seems clever and I like his stuff. So he was showing a wood splitter, one of the manual wood splitters. It's like a metal cage, and then there's a wedge in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And his TikTok was talking about how the throat of this thing was so wide it could fit really huge pieces of wood. And then he proceeded to put, a big piece of wood in and split it apart. The people of TikTok have loved that he put that together. And the number of duets that come across my For You page now of people duetting Wrangler Star's wood splitting video is off the charts.
Wow, I need to go check it out. So
yes, it is.
I haven't been to my For You page. I've been to like
why haven't you? You have a TikTok. You have hundreds of thousands of subscribers on yours. You're super popular.
Well, I've been watching dermatology videos and stuff like that.
Your For You page has strayed from the likes of which my For You page
it's like no longer prepping stuff. No. Even though that's all the channel. It's like pimple popping and it's jokes and it's stuff like that. So,
all right. So I got a question for you.
Yeah.
So this came up twice this week, and so I was like, all right, this is a good question to ask everybody. So, usually at night, I sleep with my cell phone next to my bed. I have a list of people that I put on Do Not Disturb so I don't get like calls from the East Coast in the morning or whatever. But I have like a list of emergency contacts that are, that Do Not Disturb, and they'll ring through and all that sort of stuff. I had two people this week. One was a person.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, one that came to our Super Bowl party and was like, "Yeah, we don't have any phones in our room at night." And I was like, "But what if there's an emergency? Like, what if something happens?" And they're like, "Well, someone will get a hold of us. They'll call somebody else." I was like, "But what if you have an emergency?" And they were like, "Well, we live by a police officer." And I was like, "Well, that's great, except if you can't get to the police officer." And then Wrangler Star, again on TikTok, one of the videos that came up, he and his wife, I believe, put their phones in Faraday bags at night.
Yeah.
And they do it so that they don't get the rings and all that sort of, but also so they feel like the signal radiation from the phone disturbs their sleep a little bit, and they get better sleep by not having it.
Yeah.
Which I don't know any science around it, but like totally go for it. It surprised me though that somebody like Wrangler Star, who is a prepping person, would not have emergency communication available, close by in the middle of the night should something happen.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that sort of a thing?
At one point, I was putting mine in a Faraday bag too, a Mission Darkness one. But I didn't. There was a time where emergency happened at night where my brother needed to call me for a family emergency, and they couldn't get a hold of me. So now I think you have to have a phone in the room. Now, if you're worried about like EMF type stuff or whatever, or like being too close to electronics, you could always just have it on the other side of the room because it's like follows inverse square law. So what you're actually getting by your bed is a lot less if it's really far away. So it's probably good to not have it like under your pillow. But to be honest, sometimes I have mine there like that. But I think that you should have some kind of way of getting a hold of you, even if it's at 3 a.m, because you never know when something bad might happen. So
yeah, I feel like that was we just redid our home security system as well with part of the whole office upgrade thing. And so we added like panic buttons and extra keypads and all this sort of stuff everywhere. And so it was surprising to me that it felt like I have been going in a direction of playing catch up with a lot of long time, big prepping channel people. And I felt like, okay, so I've got to get our room secure and communication secure and everything else. And then to kind of turn around and have a couple of people be like, oh yeah, no, we absolutely have no phones in our room. And I was like, but what happens? What happens if you need something or there's a fire or somebody breaks in or whatever? Like, you would want to have some way of communicating, some way of letting people know that it's an emergency.
I think it's a prepper miss. I think you gotta
prepper fail. That needs to be on the soundboard.
Yeah,
I mean, prepper fail.
If there's some burglar, if I hear the glass break downstairs, I don't want to. Let me get it out of the Faraday cage and let me get a signal after 30 seconds. Like seconds count on the situation. If there's a fire, if your elderly parent or grandparent has to go to the hospital, like you don't want your phone in a Faraday cage, and you don't want to have someone have to drive over to your house and start banging on the door. I think there's just too many scenarios where you want to have quick communication. No, I could totally understand not wanting to have electronics near you and that you sleep better with that, but just at least put it on the other side of the room. So
I like that idea.
Yeah,
we also have we have security cameras all around our house and inside, outside, everywhere. And so sometimes like if there's a thud, or if I wake up at a random time, like the other night I woke up at like 2:30 and I was like, okay, something obviously woke me up. To be able to go to my phone and pull up all the security cameras and see like, all right, was it a kid walking to get water that I heard, or was it somebody outside, doing something in the garage or something? Like, okay, I want to be able to do that. I don't want to have to fumble around and unhook the bag and look at the whole thing.
Yeah, we have our Arlos and we get a notification on it, and Wrangler Star, what's going on here?
Yeah, exactly.
I'll go ahead and say it. That's a miss.
He's so focused on the throat size, he just missed the whole other thing.
No, I do like when you're camping and because I know that he's out in kind of the rural type environment and for the homestead, and I do like sleeping away from electronics. I think I sleep better for sure, but I also sleep with a CPAP. So how far away can I get away from electronics now? So. My wife and I, it's totally romantic. We look like Darth Vader in our bogged tanks with like our CPAP machine on. Hey, happy Valentine's Day.
Exactly. Nothing says romance like that. Yeah.
And now I also I sleep with a mouth guard. So
oh wow,
the days of having
headgear and
sexy underwear is over. It's like headgear. Yeah,
but ladies, Rip does not sleep with a CPAP. No. He doesn't need a CPAP or a mouth guard.
No,
he just sleeps in the hat, and that's it.
Yeah,
that's fantastic. Prairie prepping.
Yeah, we have a backup phone. We have a voice over IP phone that's also in the bedroom just in case our phones are dead for whatever reason. So
Yeah, that's an interesting one. We had one at one point for a little while and ended up not using it. It was kind of the bundle thing where for a while, like Comcast would give you a phone.
It's
It was
super
less
annoying.
expensive for them to give you the phone than to get the package without the phone, which didn't make a whole lot of sense. But
we did that too, and they trick you, and then like the number, I'm sure they shop that number around, and hey, let's give it to every single spam caller that we could think of, and they're going to call you at all hours, and sometimes they're a little rude and stuff. So
yeah, so I think there's technically a phone number either attached to our fiber line now or something, but I don't know. I feel like the cell connections are pretty good, and if not, then we have the satellite GPSs that we could use if we needed to or something like that. I have thought about getting a second backup cell phone on a different carrier because we're mostly Verizon and it works really well, but when we go camping, the Verizon service in the campsite doesn't work, and so I have to get an AT&T card for the like week that we're camping to be able to work and that sort of thing. And I've debated about whether or not I should just make that like an annual contract and then just have a phone that's on a different carrier or not.
Yeah. And it's also like one of the times that you could make sure that everyone's phones get charged overnight, so then they're ready to go in the morning too. So
yeah,
I think there's just too many reasons to have one next to you. So not. So.
I agree. All right, let's see what else we've got. Spare phone in the Faraday bag with lots of books. Yes.
I have that too. I have that. Yeah. But your primary phone, I think you should have it for emergency. I don't get that. I got to watch this video now.
Yeah, exactly. And I like the idea of having the spare phone with the apps in the Faraday bag. And also, depending on the size of the memory on your primary phone, like you can put the same books on your primary phone too. I have like a little group of apps on my main phone that are emergency, the SOS book, digital, and all that sort of stuff. But then I have a copy on a phone that sits in a Faraday bag or in the metal Faraday boxes that are in my office.
Yep. I totally agree.
Yeah.
I think we're aligned on that one.
I think we are too. I'm glad that we are on the same page. Okay, let's see. Something about security systems.
I did a nightstand EDC video last year, and I have a fire extinguisher next to the bed. I have all sorts of stuff next to that.
Well, sometimes when RIP comes, it comes like it can get hot in there, and it just you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, fire extinguisher is a great self-defense type weapon too, because like, well, never mind. I don't want to talk legal stuff, but like it's a blunt force object if you have zombies coming in there, and if the zombie ever tried to sue you, you could, hey, that's a fire extinguisher. Like,
exactly.
But if you had like some prepper battle baton or something like that, they're going, hey, why do you have that? What's the intent behind it? So that's why I think fire extinguishers are good to have. So
well, because I didn't have a fire. That's why. Yeah. Or sometimes you have to scold the fire. You have to scold the fire for doing naughty things. I think the other thing with a fire extinguisher is you can also use it as a distraction. You can create like almost like a smoke screen sort of a thing, depending on what you're doing.
Like Batman style. Yeah.
Exactly. At least that's what they do on WWE.
Yes.
It's always like smoke screen and then somebody appears.
Someone was talking about wildfires too. Yeah, you'd want to have a phone for wildfires.
Exactly. There's a thing about 911 on a landline. Yes. You can do 911 on a landline. You can also do 911 on a VoIP line. Usually,
I think you can do it on like Alexa too if you have.
Yeah. I think there was a bunch of we were connecting everything with our Echo Dots and all this sort of stuff, and there are a bunch of security features now that exist in the Alexa app that work with all of that stuff. That is not. It's not a security system necessarily. But it does it'll listen for glass breaks if you're not home. It'll listen for a smoke alarm if you're not home and then alert you remotely. So I think anything like that is really cool. I know there's some people that don't want to have an Alexa in their house because they think they're being spied on, which is fine.
We
Just
have
get the
like
balloon, attach the Alexa to a balloon,
that's true.
fly it over the country, and you'll be fine.
I think for my mom, we have one where we could drop in on her at any time. It'll beep, but we could just to check in on her type thing. So because it's kind of a good like especially for elderly, like I'm falling and I can't get help, but you can you could use it for that kind of thing. So
yeah. We also got one of the ones with the Echo Show, the screen. It's really cool. It's like a little TV kind of thing because you can stream stuff.
That's what
and everything.
Yeah.
I was actually going to get it for my office, and I realized that I already have so many TVs in here. I don't need another one, and so we put it inside the house. And now, when the kids are home, because they're old enough to be here by themselves, or if there's a babysitter or whatever, we don't have to put the camera apps on their phones. They can just go to the show that's in our family room and pull it down and have access to all of the external cameras and see what's going on. So if there's something that creeps them out or whatever, like they can do that really easily.
I know I hear a bunch of doors and stuff outside. I had an idea for a future episode. I don't know how.
Okay.
Have you been checking out this freaking AI stuff, the chat GPT stuff?
Yes.
And how it might relate to prepping type stuff, or I thought there's some possibilities for that. So I've been
I like that.
Okay.
All right.
I don't know if someone's already covered it in the preparedness community, but
so I have seen little bits and pieces of episodes. I've seen it a lot more in like my business YouTube and all of that sort of stuff. I played around with it the other day when it kind of first came out to see like what it would come up with if I asked it certain questions. And it was remarkably accurate. It was. What was funny about it, though, and what I've heard now, because everyone was so blown away by what it does, and then there's a lot of thought that went into it, is it's really great at giving you an answer. It's really great. It's like Google, we were always excited because you could put stuff into Google and it would give you great search results. ChatGPT seems to do that, but summarize the search results for you in a more contextual way. So it still doesn't have some of the nuance or accuracy that some of that an actual human being would have, or the life experience sort of stuff. But it is amazing how efficiently it can get data and information and quantify it for you.
It seems like for like prepper YouTube or any YouTube channel really, but like I think Chuck was talking about that. Yeah, you could probably use it. Hey, write me a YouTube script, a 5-minute video on emergency preparedness in relation to fire extinguishers and which ones you should have in your home. I want it to be 5 minutes and do it in the voice of Casey. And like, is that like, and then, oh, by the way, use these stock videos to assemble the video.
Yeah.
Is that where we're going to now?
So there was I saw a couple of videos of people, because in my day job thing, I do a lot of digital marketing stuff. So I'm getting ChatGPT, I'm getting Prepper things, and then I'm getting like digital marketing stuff. And there were several that have come up that are like, go to ChatGPT, type in your prompt. I want a 5-minute video about this topic in this way for this niche audience. Yeah. It'll spit it out. Then there's another site that's an AI site where you put it in and it'll do the voiceover.
Yes.
Then you put it in another one and it'll make it more readable. Like it'll be less computery and more readable.
And then you could have it do you could have it do stock images and stuff too.
Exactly. Video, B-roll, all of that. Put the whole thing together and upload it to YouTube. And it's basically a completely AI video. But you have to go to 4 or 5 different sites, and so where a lot
I've seen those, and but there's a lot of those kind of videos out there, like where just people are like City Prepping has a lot of like narration ones that are with stock video type things. Like maybe there'll be a City Prepping AI voice type thing coming out, or I'll have my own. That'll be a way that you and I could crank out videos daily. It's just going to be all AI.
Yeah, which is one of those. It's one of those weird, interesting things for me about. I feel the same way sometimes about TikTok and some of that sort of stuff. Of, if we're doing it for ourselves, if we're doing it, as we're not really businesses, but as we do it like businesses or whatever, like there are certain things that I want in my end product to feel like I did it, as opposed to running it through a bunch of computer systems and then uploading it.
But there's a lot of people that are into the business part of it and want to make some money.
Yeah, exactly.
For me, this is all creative outlet, and it's like a way of interacting. And I don't think a AI bot's going to be dressing up as Rip anytime soon. So, but maybe someday. No.
And I think just to clarify my point about business things, this for me is a creative thing. I'm not making tons of money off of this with my dozens of followers and everything else. But you know, because we do talk about things like emergency preparedness and some of that sort of stuff, I've set this whole thing up as a business just for some liability protection, because that's what attorneys tell you to do when you decide you're going to do something like this. So for me, there's some of that in there where, like, I don't want to just make, you know, a video that just is voice and everything else and spit it out there. Kind of like I also don't want to do just the fear porn videos of the world is ending and it's happening tomorrow. Like, that's not what I want my channel to be. I'm curious to see if people will continue to be interested in the personalities.
Yeah.
I'd
like to think
these, in these kind of information niches, or if they will just be like, okay, I just want the video that has the B-roll and the 5-minute bullet points.
I think that's why it's so. And I don't know if Chat GPT does this, and we could do a whole dedicated video on this. But like the humor aspect of like what we do, I think I don't know if AI finds things funny and like have jokes and senses of humor and stuff like that. So I think that's important to always integrate in your videos to make us human, because if it's like this now in 2023, what's it going to be like in 2033? So it's going to be crazy.
Well, yeah, and I think that one of the things is you can go in and research and read information really easily. There are lots of videos. I don't know that there's any prepping topic that you or I would come up with that you can't find some information or video on. Like, we every once in a while have our own really cool idea, but a lot of it is taking our experience with a bunch of different people's ideas and a bunch of information that we've seen and trial and error, and then conveying our experience to our audience and saying, hey, this is what worked for me. These were things that were good or not good or whatever, and then take it and do with it what you will. I don't think AI is going to do a great job at that. I think it's going to give you the information piece and say, this is what people do. As an example, I was doing the whole, like, I was looking at my prep planner that I'm going to launch here at some point, because I've spent, I don't know how long building this thing. And at some point it's got to be available to people. And I was looking to see, I put the calendar in it and I said, okay, ChatGPT, give me 100 prep ideas or 100 prepping activities that could be done essentially every week to look at. And it came up with, I think, 43 or something like that. And they were good. There were some that I had. There were some that I felt like were just bullet points. They weren't really tasks, but you know, they found a thing, and so that was interesting. So I think there's a lot of refining that you need to do when you get into ChatGPT, but it's not going to be Tup. It's not going to be Casey from Cascadia Dispatch. It's not going to be Canadian Prepper or City Prepper explaining to everybody why that worked or why it didn't work.
Yeah. Well, I think we should dive into it more.
I think we should. I think that maybe we'll make that next week, or maybe. That may take a couple weeks to put together. Okay. We got to actually get time on ChatGPT to actually.
I've been only playing with it for a few days now, and it's impressive and also scary. So.
Yeah, exactly.
And I see a lot of those TikTok videos are, hey, how to make $20,000 a month doing AI.
Yeah, there's a component to those videos where I'm like, that is genius that they came up with how to do that. And then there's also a part of me that's like, it feels a little scammy. It just feels a little like, okay, you're doing this, but I don't feel like it's your thing. Like,
it's the Milli Vanilli of videos.
Exactly. You're just repackaging stuff that was already there. And
maybe it would be a fun challenge to try to do one and then to put it out there and see if people will even recognize if it's been all AI generated.
That is an interesting idea. Okay, I like that.
We're
idea.
giving up all these good ideas that other people are gonna steal.
We really,
put on there.
we do. Our dozens and dozens of watchers and listeners are going to steal it.
Yes.
All right, so I think we are close to time.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to take some people to the train station later tonight.
Exactly. The train station is waiting. Yeah. Hopefully Tup will show up here again at some point.
We'll see. Maybe he might come tomorrow. We'll see.
Although I'm enjoying talking to Rip, so that's totally fine.
Yeah. It's also because during the backstage, Rip wasn't backstage. Rip only came live. So.
Rip only comes live. Yeah. That's only his thing. So I think the other thing is I spent some time putting more podcast episodes together. So if you have not already subscribed to the podcast, keep an eye out. I want to try to catch up on the podcast episodes because I would like to get our newer episodes out like the same week that we do that. But I have this backlog of like 30 episodes that I need to get out there. So more of those coming. Stay tuned. If you enjoyed this, if you didn't enjoy it, if you've just been watching, go ahead and hit the thumbs up and the like button. We appreciate it. It definitely lets YouTube and everybody know that they should watch it and show it to more people. We get a lot of people that watch the replays. So we appreciate.
We're kind of a rerun channel. So.
We are. We're a DVR channel. Is kind of what we are. It's a good thing for us to be podcast, video, stream, whatever it is, so people can watch us at their leisure. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. We'll see you next week, next Wednesday at 5:30 Pacific time. Hopefully, as usual and on time. Thanks everybody for joining us.
We did good one. We did good.
We made it. We made it work out that one. Yeah, we're figuring this out.
We even had a Sutton's Days cameo. I mean,
exactly.
It was almost a perfect episode.
47 episodes in, and we're almost there.
Yeah, we're getting the hang of it. Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thanks a lot.